podcast where host Scott Lefante, that's me, explores the cutting edge of physical operations, from groundbreaking technologies to industry-shaping strategies. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast app and stay ahead of the curve. Welcome everyone to another episode of Innovate with Ludia. I am your host, Scott Lefante, and today we have another Ludia guest. We're continuing that community summit theme. And so today's special guest is none other than Mr. Bryan Barton. Bryan, how are you today?
Hey, Scott, how's it going? Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. It's we don't get to talk very often. It's interesting for those that are listening or watching. We don't get to talk a lot, even though Ludia is such a close-knit organization. He's on the dark side. I'm on the good side.
Right.
I mean, so or you could say it the other way around if
dark
you
side,
really
sure.
choose to.
Yep.
But so Bryan, for our listeners, to explain why I say you're on the dark side, what is it you focus on?
Oh, well, yeah. Okay. So, speaking of the dark side, yeah. So, I'm a senior manager here and a technical architect at Ludia Consulting. So, dark side. So Scott's definition of dark side is the Dynamics 365 finance operations. Nowadays, we're calling it finance and supply chain, right? The name changes every once in a while, but dark side. That's where I'm at. Compared to the CE, is that what we're saying, or Power Platform? That's the light side. Right. Talking
that's
Jedi
right.
Sith type thing. Okay. Yep.
That's right. I got to go get my Yoda going on, right?
Yep.
But that, yeah. So exactly, and so we don't get to talk a lot on the podcast about the ERP side, but it really is in terms of physical operations, which is what we specialize in. Very important, right? You can have a front end all you want. If you can't bill, you can't do inventory and all the other fun stuff that the ERP system does.
That's right.
What are you left with?
Yep. ERP. It's kind of like the backbone, right? It's where a lot of the transactional finance and inventory related things live. So, on the dark side here, we gotta know all those little areas, and we gotta, and it could be a dark side thing because it's very technical, right? So you have to really know your way around this really old system. So that's where, my background 20 years back. I mean, I started when it was still called Exapta, which was a Danish product that Microsoft acquired, right? And the code that exists today is still kind of carried through all these 20 years. They've just, they've updated it into newer languages and stuff. Actually, no, it's still X++, but it's now usable within the Microsoft stack. So it's the dark side for sure. It's a lot of
until you come over to the Power Platform.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Eventually, it'll happen, right? Yeah.
One day,
yeah.
Maybe before we retire.
Right.
But so let's talk about what we've been doing here the last couple episodes, and really talking about Community Summit. And you, my friend, have two sessions during Summit. So I want to mention those real quick, and then we'll talk about each of those. So your first one is Improving System Efficiency, Data Archiving Feature in Dynamics 365 FSC. And that one's on Wednesday, the 16th from 9:15 to 10:15 Central. And then you have Streamlining e-invoicing and Tax Localization, Introducing Globalization Studio Workplace in D365 FSC. And that's on Thursday, the 17th from 8:30 to 9:30. So you and I, the last day, I think we got the early session.
Yes. So. Yep. That was me last summit as well. I had a session early in the morning on the last day. So surprisingly, people are still around. It may be the last day and people are packing up and trying to leave town and stuff. I still had some folks in my session on the last day. I mean, people still want to know. They still want to learn some of these newer things. So, yeah.
Well, and that's a great point. So if you're planning on attending the summit and these are helpful topics, don't bail early. You will learn something. You will learn something. I promise you. And if you don't learn anything new, you're still going to learn. You're going to meet new connections, new faces, and that leads to so many positive outcomes.
It does, yeah. And you bounce ideas off each other. I mean, I've seen that at the end of some of these sessions where folks will be like, "Hey, did this happen to you, or have you tried this in your project?" So yeah, there's a lot of I guess it is networking in a way, right? So we're kind of learning from each other as a community, which is great.
Yeah.
That's why it's called the Community Summit. So
Well, and don't get me wrong, everyone that's listening. By the time Thursday comes, Bryan and I are ready to leave as well because
oh yeah,
we're mentally
yep.
and physically exhausted.
Yep.
But we will plow forward.
That's right.
So Bryan, why these topics? Like what about these topics spoke to you and said, you know what, these are things that people really need to know about. I'm well versed in them, whatever it may be.
Yeah. So these two particular topics, they jumped out at me when I was deciding what I wanted to present at the summit to share with the rest of the community. And the reason why I picked these ones, I think my main two reasons would be, first of all, I saw these pain points with our existing clients. That's the first thing. But secondly, like I experienced the pain myself in trying to get over some of these hurdles in one of the implementations that I was working on. So when it comes to the data archive one, we've had to write. So we've had two examples of clients where they really needed to like move some data off of their system because it was really slowing things down, and there wasn't anything really in place at the time, right? I mean, Microsoft had this feature. It was kind of in preview, not really ready to go, so they couldn't really implement it. And so we had to do some crazy, wacky workarounds and figuring out how to export out stuff, writing queries and like pulling just certain things out of the way so that we can make room for system improvement as far as performance goes, right? So I feel like that this is a new tool. It's now available, generally available, which is really exciting because this is it's like something that our clients, like I've seen in many places, could use this. In fact, we have a couple of upcoming projects where we're like, hey, this is a perfect candidate for something to help meet the objectives that the client is asking us to help them with. So I'm like, this is perfect. So, the archiving feature, it's really amazing. It's a new tool. It's kind of necessary going forward, really, because as we move forward in technology and the new way of doing business and the cloud and everything, data becomes an issue, especially when a lot of data builds up.
A
right?
lot
So
of data.
we have a way to alleviate that with this new archiving feature, which is real exciting to me. Actually, it's I'm excited to see it in action as we're going into these projects and implementing it for our clients. And then the globalization one, well, that was another one I was involved in directly. There was this difficulty with the lifecycle management and keeping everything current when changes needed to be updated. In the past, it was in the repository that was a whole separate system that you kind of had to integrate in with f&sc, and now this globalization studio has now become directly integrated into f&sc. So it's like it's all there in one place. It's using the Dataverse, of course, because that's what we're talking about at the beginning here, right? It's the Dataverse and the Power Platforms all coming together. Everything is converging into one Dynamics, right? So this is one step closer when it comes to localizing your reporting and your tax reporting and your invoicing and all that. So those are the reasons why I chose those two particular topics, because I've seen the pain points, I've experienced them myself. I feel like I want to pay it forward and show other folks how they can use some tools that are available now that will help get past these pain points for themselves, right?
Well, and I think the data archiving one feature is one that's very interesting to me because of, to your point, everything's in the cloud now, and so data becomes a commodity.
Yep.
Data has a significant price tag associated to it if
Correct.
you start going over what your capacity is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sit there and think, when is CE going to have a data archiving tool, right, outside of what we have to do on our side, like a Nick Tausman and his team, where they have to create some scripts to pull the data into a data warehouse, then purge it, right? To have that tool readily available to say, okay, I only want 3 years worth of X data, or I want this, or I want that, or whatever the tool does. I'm really curious. I'm going to be sitting in on your session. A little heckling in the back. But it begs the question, where is it? Why don't we have something like that right now? Why f&scm has it, So
Yeah, good question. I mean,
wonder if it's coming at some point, because realistically, if this whole move to get to the Dataverse and the Power Platform, then that right there becomes a huge strategic factor in any sort of implementation.
it does. Yeah, yeah, I agree. On the CE side, so the interesting thing here is with this data archiving thing is that it uses Dataverse entities, right? So we're pushing F&O or FNSC entities into Dataverse entities, and then from there, it's kind of like a leapfrog into a data lake, right? So I assume I'm just going to make an assumption on how Microsoft will do that for the CE side. It's probably just adding another lever there on top of those virtual entities that are existing on the Dataverse side, and just including those as part of the package potentially, or some other way that they have a specific, what would you call it, like a uh, extraction channel. That's what they call it, the Athena channel, right? It goes out to the data lake. So I feel like that shouldn't be too big of a lift to happen soon for the CE side.
Yeah, no, agreed. So I'm really, really, really curious, because we see it all the time on our side. Like, we see it internally. Hey, you're approaching your capacity limit.
Yep.
Now, okay, some of it is because we have a boatload of environments. But usually an organization, like our customers, might have, 3 or 4 environments, and mostly the lower level environments don't have a whole lot of data in there. It's really for testing.
Yep.
I've only seen once or twice where I look and say, well, why is test an exact replica of production? But
Yep.
the data grows very quickly. And I don't think anyone realizes that. And it's not just the data, it's the metadata.
That's exactly right. Yeah, all of that extra overhead that we need to have when we're indexing and keeping track of how many records we have. When you get into the millions and millions of records, then it becomes a retrieval process. When you say, hey, show me last week's sales orders. Hey, the database has got to churn through these indexes to find exactly what you're looking for and then pull it back. Yeah, all that indexing overhead and metadata there, it takes up a lot of space for sure. And so this is the reason why, someone or a company like the project I was referring to that had this pain point, they were having, I think they had, gosh, it was like millions of sales orders in a week almost, because they have a chain of a bunch of stores where they're keeping track of all the purchases that are happening, right? So it becomes a issue very quickly when you have that many records coming in. And so this is so exciting that we're able to start using this new functionality. And then secondary to that, when you're talking about the testing and such, I know part of this unified administration, unified developer experience, now that we're going to be moving some of our FNSC activities into the Power Platform and moving away from LCS. This is now, there's features around data as well that I was just looking at yesterday, which is pretty exciting as well, where we can say, hey, I don't want to copy my entire production database into my test environment. I only want master data and configurations, leave the transactions behind. And you can easily do that. It's so awesome. There's like there's a dashboard in Power Platform. We could say, leave out the transactions, just give me the standard stuff, and then we'll move that into the test environment or the development environment. And that way, again, you're saving on storage costs when you're trying to do your development cycles, right? It's pretty cool.
All right, I'm converting over to the dark side of things.
Come on over to the dark side. Yeah, exactly.
Like where have you been my whole life there, data archival tool?
Yep.
That's great. I mean, has this been an ongoing, so in your head, so if you look at the 2 topics, I mean, is it more of you're seeing these trends happening more recently, or has it really been like, what, they've been there, but now that the strategy of Microsoft is shifting, it's becoming more prevalent? Because I would imagine even in the old school way, I mean, an ERP database can grow exponentially large and unwieldy, regardless.
It does. Yep. I would say, and that's a great question. I would say in my experience, in the past, that still existed. I think before we had the cloud-based version of finance and operations, or AX or Xapta, or whatever you want to call it, it was just an accepted thing sometimes. Oh, it's expect the screen to load slowly. It's just how it is. And or the IT department would, spend an arm and a leg to upgrade their, in-house server, their on-premise servers, all the horsepower behind that, right? Adding more computing power or whatever in order to improve performance. Those were ways you could pull levers back then. Now in the cloud, it's a little bit different. There's more of a cost related to that. Hey, give me more horsepower in the cloud, right? It's just way more expensive. Whereas now, hey, here's an easier route. Let's extract it out into a data lake where that storage is, pennies on a dollar compared to a SQL storage, right? So,
Yeah.
That's what I love about technology. It's that these new things, these new paradigm shifts, these new ideas, and just things that smart IT people come up with to make life easier. I think it's really fun to see where things go as technology advances, and now it's just advancing more and more rapidly, right? Every 6 months, something new to see coming out with Microsoft, or what Microsoft releases in their release plan, right? So
yeah. Well,
it's fun.
Yeah, and you're not only keeping up on those core features now, but all of the exciting AI features and Copilot.
Yes. And that's your forte, right? You're the AI guy with Ludia. So
I am, and trying to keep on top of it. It's daunting because it's not just It's not just Copilot. It's, hey, you got Copilot for finance and supply chain, Copilot for this, Copilot for that, Copilot in this and in that, and an overall Copilot, and it's just, woo.
Scott, some people would say, if you talk about the dark side, wouldn't AI is that the real dark side, right? AI, they're coming after us. It's going to take over the world. Watch out, right?
It could be. I'm going to create like an Scott AI version of Scott. I don't know if the world is ready for it yet, though.
Yep. Yeah. Deep fake Scott, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Like
I think one of me probably is more than sufficient in terms of what the world can handle or really wants to handle. So,
and that's the thing. That's the scary part about AI, right? You can train it to like read every email you've ever written, listen to every every meeting you've ever been in and whatever, and then it can kind of emulate. It'd be like, well, this is how Scott would answer a question, right? Here's how Scott would do a podcast interview. Kind of.
Hey, maybe
it's crazy, right?
I wonder if AI Scott would do a better podcast.
Right. Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think I might have to find that out. You know what? Stay tuned for that one.
Yep.
So we spoke a lot about the data archiving feature.
Yeah.
What about the the e-invoicing and tax localization? I mean, obviously invoicing and taxation has been around since
forever. Yeah.
Whenever. Yeah, forever. Right. But I mean, what's different about this? I mean, the globalization studio workspace sounds kind of cool. I don't know what it is, but it sounds kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I was mentioning before, it's a new workspace. It won't look new to the users who are used to it, right? So that's the cool part about it, is that it's all in the background. So this is part of the technical side. The nerdy tech IT folks will know about this, right? And this is why I'm presenting it to those folks at the summit. Is that the interface is not going to look too much different for the folks who are already using it the way that it was before. I know that Microsoft, as of this year, August 1st, so just last month, they discontinued their RCS service, which is the repository where the regulation services, where they basically keep track of all of the different regulations across the world. So like Brazil has different tax requirements than Mexico, that kind of thing, right? And that was all in a repository. And you'd have to sign up for this service with Microsoft and like set up all the links and then make sure that it's transferring data the right way. And so it was like its own integration, but it was like an internal Microsoft integration. It's kind of wacky, right? Like when you think about it now, it's like, well, why wasn't it always the way it is now?
Yeah.
And that's why they got to the point now where they can now put that in the Dataverse instead of in this external repository place that they had it before. So now in the Dataverse, we have instant immediate access. We can now store our tweaks and customizations that we put against some of these like invoices. Like let's say we're doing an invoice for Mexico and we wanted to change a few things for our client that, you know, has a Mexico subsidiary or something, right? And that's exactly one of the situations that was in one of our projects. We had a Mexico subsidiary. We were trying to figure out, hey, why is this tax piece not coming through when we're trying to submit it to the government, right? That's the other thing that this Globalization Studio is now going to help with. So before, it was this repository where we had to figure out, well, why is it not sending the correct tax information back over? There was these settings that we had to tweak, some configurations that were wrong. And the thing is now, we had to, how do we make sure that that's going to carry through with application lifecycle management, or, you know, the ALM process? How are we going to make sure that it's not it's going to be deployed across all the places we need it to be deployed? It made it a little bit more difficult when you had the RCS piece. And now we've got this Globalization Studio, which is really awesome. It's internal now to the ecosystem, and it's now in Dataverse. So now we can easily track the ALM a lot quicker, a lot easier, because it's in Dataverse. We can put control against it, source control, whatever else. And now everything is just, life is just easier because you can connect, you can make the changes, save them. It's just, everything about it is better than it was before. So that's exciting for me too, because I went through the pain points of trying to handle that before, and now life will be easier.
Yeah, it sounds very painful. It sounds like when I'm trying to do my own taxes at times, and you know, you bang your head up against the desk and
yes,
say,
exactly.
Why?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that is really exciting. You know, especially, I mean, it sounds like it's right to your point. The RPC, you said RPC was just deprecated this past
RCS, the Regulatory Configuration
RCS,
Service. That's what it was called. The Regulatory Configuration. Yeah, RCS. Yep.
RCS was just deprecated, you know, a month ago.
Yep.
Or so, and so this is pretty new and exciting
Brand
things.
new.
And so, I mean, for those organizations or users that are going to be at Summit, or you know, other consultants that are like, okay, hey, what's this bad? How do I do it? How do I utilize it? You know, what makes it better? Which I'm sure is a really simple answer.
Yeah.
You just said it, you know, but all these things, you know, that's why you go to the session on Thursday morning.
Yeah, setups are a little bit different with this one, which is why I wanted to share some of that, and for the technical side specifically, because you have to have certain configurations in place and permissions and those kind of things. So yeah, and a lot of this, you know, with this globalization stuff, you have to, when you're done saying, here's how much tax I need to submit to the government, or I need to what do you call it? Like the tax return type stuff, you know, once a month, I got to send in my taxes to the Mexico government entity that needs to see it, right? That's, you know, there's different ways that different governments want that stuff. Could be a XML, could be some other format, right? And so this stuff, this is all handled within the Globalization Studio as well. I mean, it was before, but now it's a lot easier because, like I said, we're using the Dataverse. So,
and Brian's going to have a lot of coffee at his session at 8:30.
Yes.
I'm planning.
Exactly.
I think I'm just going to bring in a vat of coffee for the 8:30 session on Thursday and say, stock up.
Yep. That would be nice, because you know it is Central Time, because we're going to be in San Antonio. Currently, I'm in Mountain Time because I'm over here in Boise, Idaho. So it's going to be a little bit earlier for me in my brain, right? So you're going to need some coffee for sure.
Whereas for me, it's not so bad. 9:30. You know,
for you, it's a little bit later because you're over there on the East Coast. Yeah.
So it's not terrible. Plus, when I travel, I don't know about you and our listeners, but when I travel a lot for work, I don't sleep well. It's like
me neither. Yeah.
Awful. So I'll be wide awake. Plus, I'll be like, okay, what did I forget anything about my presentation? What do I the talking points and all that fun stuff. And then of course, you know, we spoke earlier, Brian and I spoke earlier about sessions in terms of planning, and so I want folks to understand, you know, certain things about Summit. Like if you see that someone is presenting screenshots versus a demo, some cases there's a very good reason. Sometimes the Wi-Fi is really slow, sometimes it doesn't respond, sometimes the system could be down. So a lot of presenters, especially seasoned presenters like ourselves, will have screenshots in our presentation as a fail safe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because sometimes at these larger events, we've got, I don't even know what the attendance is going to be. The attendance is probably going to be thousands and thousands and thousands of people, right? So everybody on the Wi-Fi at the same time, that sometimes can cause some internet traffic issues. And then when we're trying to connect up into the cloud to our URL that hosts our environment, this is, one of the things that we deal with as far as looking at, an environment on the cloud instead of, locally on a machine or whatnot. Yeah, it's an issue sometimes with that internet. Yep.
Yeah, it throws me back to my Siebel days where I used to have a local database, and it was, granted, exactly. my computer had to be exponentially larger because that database was massive. But to your point, you didn't have to worry about it back then.
Yeah.
And so that is one of the challenges. I know everyone loves to see live demos, and we love to give live demos at these conferences. But I just urge everyone that's listening, like, if you see it and you're disappointed, a lot of times, like Bryan or myself, like, hey, we'll go to start with a demo, and if it's not responding or if it's too slow, we'll fall back to the slideware and talk through it, because there's only so much time we have.
Yep, exactly. Yep, that's right.
So what are you looking forward to, Bryan? So you were at Summit last year. What are you looking forward to this year in terms of Summit and getting there? I think you're getting there. You get there on
Wednesday. I think.
When do you go? Wednesday? Okay.
I think it's Wednesday. Yeah. So I think it starts on Monday, right? Or they have like the pre-event type stuff happening on Monday, and then Tuesday the event actually starts, right? I think that's right.
It's actually pre-event is Sunday.
Sunday, there you go. Okay.
And then Monday it starts, because Monday I actually in the afternoon have my first of three sessions on Monday.
There you go. Yep. Yeah. No. To answer your question, last year we were in Charlotte. It was amazing. This year, I think I'm looking forward to meeting other folks who are looking into some of these new capabilities that we at Ludia are very well versed in. So we meet counterparts, colleagues from other companies who we maybe know from the past or whatnot. It's fun to see those folks, right? And then also some of our current and former clients come and stop by. I love seeing everybody. That's great too. And then just collaborating, like I was saying before. I remember last year had a great conversation with one of our clients, and I finally got to meet them in person, which was great. And it was great just kind of sharing some ideas based on the session that I had just given, and some thoughts on how to do some of the steps, and hey, what was your experience around this? So those are fun interactions. And then just being able to get together with everybody else, not just at Ludia, but like everybody that folks and friends that we know from different places in this space, right? So it's always fun on the floor too to see people at the booth.
It's as large as this community is, it's very small.
It is. Yeah, it's like a small world. It's like you see some of the same people many times in many different places. So yeah, they're like old friends. Like I've known people from 20 years ago that I actually saw at Summit last year, which was great. So I love that kind of community aspect of it, which is great because it's community summit, right? So
yeah, that's what it's about, right? It's about us, not only giving back to the community in terms of sharing our knowledge and networking, but having people come to the booth as well, or just reminiscing about, hey, you have an old client or an old colleague you run into, and so happens all the time. And it's a small world, as large as this conference is going to be. And I'm curious because I've never been to San Antonio in terms of conference. I think I've only been there at an airport for a layover. So so this will be interesting. But usually these conferences are, there's a lot of people, and we have a great booth. Our booth number is 1217. So you won't be able to miss it. It'll be massive green Ludia, right? It'll kind of look like this.
Green like your shirt. Yep, exactly. I think we're actually going to be wearing shirts that color while we're all there, I believe.
I think so.
That's my understanding. We're all going to have some Ludia green, so you'll be able to find us pretty easily down there.
That's
on
right.
the floor.
And I'll see if I can wear one of my signature hats here.
Awesome.
My scally cap, and I'll see.
Yep.
Walk around and look like Dr. Doolittle. It'll be great. It'll be great.
Yep.
Awesome. So real quick, let me recap your 2 sessions here. So on Wednesday, October 16th, from 9:15 to 10:15, you're lucky too. You get them out early, and then you get to go to the booth and go see other sessions and cheer on everybody else.
Yep.
But October 16th, 9:15 to 10:15, improving system efficiency, data archiving feature in D365 FSC. That's in location 303A. And then on Thursday, the 17th, from 8:30 to 9:30. I know.
8:30 to 9:30. That's the coffee right there. Yeah.
That's the coffee session.
That's the coffee
Streamlining.
session.
That's right. Coffee talk. Streamlining. Yeah, I think that's what it's coffee talk. Streamlining.
Yep.
But streamlining e-invoicing and tax localization, introducing the globalization studio workspace in D365 FSC, and that again is in room 303A. So
you're easy to find. Yeah,
easy to find for you. So that'll be great.
Hey, speaking of coffee, last year in Charlotte at the community summit, there was a Starbucks inside the convention center.
Oh,
so there were some of us who were going and getting our iced espressos, right? Give me a quad shot. I need to stay awake. That kind of stuff. So
well, I just had there was a new one, Starbucks. Speaking of Starbucks, and I know we're getting off topic, but this is what we do on this. You know what? If you're listening, you're just gonna have to deal. So my wife went to Starbucks the other day and got this apple crisp something or other.
I saw that. Yeah,
and
I saw that new drink.
And I'm like, I don't know.
Sounds weird, right?
It sounds weird. It tasted like I was drinking apple pie.
So it's a coffee flavored apple pie, basically. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty
interesting.
Much. And I was
I need to go try it.
and at first I was like, I don't know, it's all right. And then it grew on me. It was like a fungus. It just grew. It's like each sip, you're like, it's not bad. It's not bad.
That's great.
The one was like, it was like a chai one with the apple. That one was a little. I'm not a big chai fan. It was pretty good. It was a little sweet. I'd tone it down a little bit on the sweetness. But then there was this espresso latte, I don't know, whatever it was, that was less sweet. That one was good too. It's a toss-up. Do you want dessert or do you want your main course apple pie? I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I'm a huge coffee snob. I guess I'll call myself a coffee snob. I mean, I've got probably the best home semi-automatic espresso machine that you can get. The one from Breville. It's a pretty snazzy machine. So I make myself a really nice latte every morning. Okay, so I'll
have to send you the photo. I think we might have the same one.
Oh, really? You have one too? Awesome. That's great.
The Breville Barista Touch.
Yes, that's it's the Oracle Touch. Is that the one where it has a screen?
Oh, you got the Oracle Touch. You got the upgrade.
That's the highest end one.
Oh, I got
the high end one.
You're definitely a coffee snob then.
That I am definitely a coffee snob. So, sometimes those sugary drinks are a little out of my range, but when my wife gets it, I'll have a little bit. But I'm normally just give me a simple little like maple sugar or something. I don't need a lot of sweetness, but
I'll do a little cafe Americano, maybe a cappuccino once in a while. Once in a while, I'll do a little espresso. It's all good.
It's definitely coffee talk.
That's right. It's coffee talk, huh? This is what you get on Innovate with Ludia. We talk about technology and in the evolution of things, and then we get the coffee.
And this is me and Scott catching up just a little bit as well. I mean, we're both on the in the leadership team here at Ludia, but we don't get to talk too much. So there's a little bit of coffee talk there. That's fun.
Yeah. And hopefully maybe it inspired some folks to go try some new types of coffee. Who knows? Or maybe they say that sounds really disgusting, and I thought the same too. I did. I'm warning you. I'm not a big flavor kind of guy. Explosion with. I'll do a caramel macchiato, and that's about as adventurous as I go.
Yep.
It was not bad. Like I said, a little sweet. I'd tone it down, but it was not bad.
Yep. Well, either way, bring your coffee to the sessions in the morning.
That's right. Bring it, and we'll have some coffee talk. We'll talk technology. We'll talk e-invoicing and tax localization.
Yep.
It'll be great.
Yep.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Well, hey, Bryan, it was great catching up with you. Look forward to seeing you at Summit. And then, of course, the month later when we do our all hands in Denver.
That would be great.
So,
yeah. Good talking with you, Scott. Appreciate the time. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you again, Bryan, and thank our listeners. We will talk to you soon. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Innovate with Ludia podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app or follow us on LinkedIn. Until next time, I'm your host, Scott Lefante.